today's video, we're going to be looking at overlapping action in the face and how we can use it to get a better performance when we're acting.
Here are our two expressions. We're going to change him from angry to happy. This is just an exercise, so there's no context to this shot, so we don't have to worry about that. We just want to focus on how can we loosen up the facial features so he doesn't look so stiff. So let's time it out. I feel 12 frames should do it. We'll add a tween, and then we'll ease out of this pose by a factor of 30, and then ease in to our second pose by a factor of 70. The spacing and timing are looking pretty good, but what can we do to loosen up this expression? Well, we want to add some overlapping action to the features of the face so they don't all start and end at the same time. So before I do this, I take a look at our spacing graph, and I'll see just where it starts to speed up. That's kind of where I want my overlapping action to be. And a great thing to loosen up the face is the eyebrows. A very easy way to do it is just make them go in the opposite direction before they go up. Around frame 5, we'll add a keyframe, and instead of his eyebrows just going up, I'm going to bring them back down. I'm going to squash his eyes down and lower it. And now we can even do the same thing with the face. It has to be pretty subtle. We don't want to squash it too much, but we do want it to be noticeable. Now, when we scrub through, his eyebrows go down first, and then they come up. Already, it looks really loose. Take this a step further. We can rotate the head a little bit, and maybe bring the head down by a few frames. And I'm liking that even more. One thing we can add at the end is a settle to just the eyebrows. So we'll go 2, 4, maybe 6 frames after. I'll drop a keyframe. And this pose is going to be our new extreme. So we'll take the eyebrows, drag them up just a little bit. This is called an overshoot, because the pieces, the eyebrows, are going past their original point and then settling back down. So if we add a tween, we should get some nice extra movement on the eyebrows. That is looking great. It's a very simple expression, but we can get a lot of interesting acting by adding some overlapping action to the features of the face. And it really makes this character feel more alive and not just a puppet going from one expression to the next.
So if you notice, all we're really doing is adding an anticipation, an overshoot, and a settle to the face.
The next example, we're going to go from happy back to angry. Now we're going the other way. So I just want to show you, you can do little tweaks and changes to this kind of formula to get different results. Here we have the same 12 frames, but instead our spacing is a little more intense. It's at 75. Here is kind of where I want the switch to happen, on frame 35. This time, instead of just bringing the eyebrows in the opposite direction, why don't we change their shape as well? Because I really want the eyebrows to pop up and then slam down into this angry pose. Move those up. So now as he comes down, the eyebrows really have a bigger movement. So it's really noticeable. And now for our end pose, I'm going to go 6 frames again. But instead of overshooting, I want his eyebrows to hold more tension. So I'm going to give it a softer accent. So instead of coming down here and coming back up on frame 49, we're going to drop them a little bit lower on frame 49, and like very, very slightly. We don't want to overdo this because then it won't really look good. Here, and we just drop it down by a couple pixels. Let's add our tween. There's no ease on it, and let's see how that looks. Right, his eyebrows come down and then they have a little bit of tension until the end. We're getting more of a reaction with the eyebrows to kind of help this angry expression read. So we use the same sort of formula, but we tweaked it a little bit to get very different results for our expressions. Here, I'll just let both play so you guys can kind of see what they look like side by side.
I learned this when I was working a few episodes on Corner Gas. The director of that show, he was a really amazing animator, and he really showed me a lot of cool ways to kind of punch up the acting on the shots, especially because they were using Flash on that show and they didn't want the acting to look stiff or fall flat. I find when I use this sort of formula, I can get really interesting expressions rather quickly, especially when I have tight deadlines to meet. Right, so you can change the timing, you can change the spacing, you can change that breakdown position to be as wild or as crazy as you want. See what works, see what doesn't. But that's all the time we have for today. If you have any questions, post them in the comments below, and I'll see everybody in the next video. Happy animating.
He's like, I'm helping.
Marlo, what are you opening?